right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Rachel?
Here.
Katie?
Yes.
Sarah?
Here.
Jeff Gorno?
Here.
James?
Here.
Carrie?
Here.
Jeff Weaver.
Here. If everyone will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a moment of silence for armed services personnel. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any items to be added or changed to the agenda? Correspondence and commendations, we have a thank you card from Gaylord Community Schools to Caldwell Banker for their donation of school supplies. We have a thank you letter from Gaylord Community Schools to Edward Jones for their donation of school supplies. Recognitions and acknowledgement, personnel, we have new hires. Gaylord High School Counselor Laura Nash, Gaylord Middle School Secretary Constance Cowper, GIS Secretary Katina Samples, Gaylord High School Teacher Rehire Jeff Callenber, North Ohio and South Maple Elementary Health Aide Ashley Martin, Food Service Helper Holly Telgeski, Bus Driver James Stanton, Gaylord Middle School Football Coach Joe St. John, JV Girls Basketball Coach Kevin Foster, JV Cheer Coach Catherine Browiak, and Varsity Cheerleading Coach Kelly Thompson. Do we have any of our new hires here? Nope. All right, we'll move on. Resignations. GIS Social Worker Sarah Skoronsky, Educational Assistant Selena Clark and Jenny Kodat, Varsity Football Assistant Coach Brian Bliss, and 8th grade girls, boys and girls basketball coach Mike Ely. And retirements, bus driver Sandy Mooland. That is all of our resignations, new hires, and retirements. Move on to public input. Just as a reminder, we have a public input now and one at the end. You're welcome to speak at either one. Renee Alexander, you're to the end, and Susan Lubart.
It's Lubert, but
Lubert.
that's okay. I'm used to it. I know you're aware of the federal law that was passed by Congress in 2004 that states requiring schools to teach the Constitution. And that is Bill 4818, Division J, Section 111, 2B, which states requires each educational institution that receives federal funds for a fiscal year to hold an educational program on the U.S. Constitution on September 17th of such year for its students. And I know the Gaylord Community Schools receives federal funds and will be in compliance with this law. Being in compliance with this, the students will be taught that America was born in 1776 when the colonists separated from Great Britain over the 27 grievances against King George III. They will not be taught the 1619 project that Nicole Hannah-Jones, a writer at the New York Times, served premise that America was not born in 1776, but was birthed in 1619 when the first shipload of slaves arrived in Jamestown, Virginia, birthing us as a slave nation. They will also be taught the Constitution is the laws that protect this nation from experiencing 27 grievances stated in the Declaration of Independence against King George III. And they will be taught that the powers of the three branches of government, Congress, executive, and judicial, Congress having the most power and judicial having the least, Congress makes the laws, the executive makes sure the laws are followed, and the judicial determines if they are constitutional. And they will be taught only Congress has the power to make the laws. And they will be taught that the president does not have the power to make laws or mandates, such as requiring schools that receive federal funding are required to allow biological boys identifying as girls to use girls' bathrooms and play on girls' teams. And the penalties for noncompliance is withholding funding and lawsuits. They will taught that the Constitution is we the people and governed by the consent of the government. governed, which is us, we the people, with unalienable rights. Our Constitution gives the laws to the power to the states, very little to the government, but mostly to the state, and is governed by we the people. So we will not be under tyranny like they did when they left Great Britain. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That is all the public input for now. Move on to the consent agenda. We have board minutes from September 5th, 2024, proposed board minutes. Treasurer's report, we have general fund bills and athletic fund bills in the amount of 2.3 million. Cafeteria fund bills in the amount of 14,000. Sinking fund bills in the amount of 267,000, and prior period adjustments in the amount of 0. That is the end of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any questions?
Rachel?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Jeff Gorno?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Jeff Weaver?
Yes. New and unfinished business. It is recommended the board approve the NEMSCA lease agreement September 2024 through August 2025 as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the NEMSCA lease agreement as presented.
I'll second.
Any questions on the NEMSCA lease agreement?
Rachel?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Jeff Gorno?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Jeff Weaver?
Yes. Health Department E3, it is recommended that the board approve the Health Department E3 interagency agreement as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the Health Department E3 interagency agreement as presented.
I'll second it.
Any questions on the Gaylord E3 interagency agreement?
The only, I just have one question, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment. I know that this is from, the mental health services at the middle school. In the contract, it has additional information in there about other, services that are provided that I don't really think are relevant to this one, but I don't know if you guys saw that, all the other list of things that are not, mental health related that they included, which I don't think it's subject to, but they just added it, it's just, I don't know why it's in there.
This
What I
is
mean?
The additional services that they mentioned.
services?
Yeah, the confidential services that are outside of the scope of the mental health services, or emotional health services.
So that is the,
Yeah.
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 So,
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, okay, so I guess I don't understand because I feel like this is a conversation for both of these that we're talking about. Cause the nurse one that we're talking about specifically says on it, it's for intermediate, South Maple and North Ohio. This one is specifically for the middle school, the E3 one, is my understanding. I didn't see that anywhere in here, but, so, do we have a nurse in the middle school? Like, does the nurse contract
Does it
put
say-
a nurse in the middle school also? Cause I thought we had a nurse in the middle school
We
from
don't,
the health department.
we don't,
No?
no.
Okay. So the middle school is the only one of our schools that doesn't have an actual nurse present regularly.
Correct.
Okay, that explains.
So does the E3 employee, this person providing the emotional support, are they providing these other additional services that are listed in here?
No,
that
my
are not-
understanding is they're contracted to provide mental health services, MSW, Master of Social Work.
Right, they're not nurses,
Doesn't-
they're
no.
mental, right, okay.
No.
Any other questions? Okay.
Rachel?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Sarah?
No,
Jeff Gorno?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Carrie?
yes.
Jeff Weaver?
Yes. All right, Health Department interagency agreement for an RN. Excuse, there we go, sorry about that. It is recommended the board approve the Health Department Interagency Agreement RN as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the health department interagency agreement with the RN.
I'll second that.
Questions on the RN interagency agreement?
So again, I have not questions, more of comments. The conflict I have is that the parental consent aspect of it in providing confidential services to kids younger than 14. That, I don't like that. I mean, I think that's dangerous. I mean, I think that's putting, some of these things in here, when you read the fine print, they're providing services to 12 and younger, and that's just,
That is state law though, correct?
State law in a health institution, but not in our school system.
It would pertain to our health clinic.
I said with that, even though it's in our school, it's still a health clinic, is that correct? So it's part of it, so it is a health clinic.
Are we talking about the wellness center, or are we talking about Galen Middle School? Or I mean, Galen
Wellness.
Intermediate and the
Wellness
elementary
school.
schools?
Well, I was talking about the wellness center.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can agree with you on that, but this is for the intermediate school and the 2 elementary schools.
Right.
And I thought we talked about in the workshop about removing that language from this because it wasn't applicable to the age group that we're dealing
I thought she
with.
was gonna do that when she sent the
Could we
contract.
remove that
Yeah.
language before we approve it?
I don't know the answer.
Can we approve it with the provision that that language has been removed? Is that,
which language?
The confidential language about confidential services that are applicable to 14 and up. And this, it also contradicts itself a little bit too, because it says that the confidential services are, so parental consent is required for ages 5 through 17, but then goes on to say that the confidential services, I think it blended 2 contracts before the language changed a year ago. So, because it says in here that it's ages 5 to 17 has to have parental consent.
But that's not what the consent form says.
Correct. No, but I'm just saying, the contract is like,
Well, they're not consistent, because the consent form says that, under 18 can, and we're talking about these 3 elementary schools, can get, pregnancy testing, prenatal care, birth control information, contraceptive testing for STIs, substance abuse treatment without parental consent. And then it further says that, the parental consent, or the minor confidentiality can be overridden if there is suspicion of abuse, the minor is a risk to themselves or someone else, or if the minor is under age 12 and reports being sexually active. That's when the minor confidentiality is basically overruled. But so 12 and up, if they're reporting sexually active, they're not telling parents.
And
And that doesn't even talk about, that's just the sexuality aspect of it. If you're at any age, if you're using a substance abuse, you can get confidential treatments. These are young kids. Parents should know that.
So you're reading that off of the RN agreement?
yeah.
But it was attached. She attached this after the workshop. It's an explanation of the confidential services.
Because I read on here where it says, students without consent forms signed by parents and guardians on file will not be seen except for the student's first visit, when staff will telephone a parent or guardian for verbal consent. Parental consent is effective if the client is between the ages of 5 and 17. But it says the parent and guardian can withdraw consent for services at any time.
But if you go to the first paragraph, Katie, it says, parental consent is not required for those confidential services under Michigan law and federal law. And then when you go down, the confidential services are what Rachel is talking about. That's why I said it contradicts itself.
And,
I can have them clean that up.
and when I asked for clarification, that's what she sent us.
That's what
was
she said.
For clarification of their confidentiality policy, so I say that's probably the one that they actually go off of and use
But
on a
no-
daily basis.
I think you're right.
Yeah, so.
But now, if we do remove this, and a student goes in there under state and federal law,
Can't remove that part.
they still can go by these confidential services. There's nothing we can do about that. Is that a correct statement?
Correct.
But it's not a healthcare facility.
But I would think if you're a healthcare provider, then that makes wherever you're at, a healthcare service.
Where it's occurring.
Or it might be a classroom of ours, or an office, but it's still where we have our nurses, so that is a healthcare.
She did say, though, that we could take the language out of that when the
Did-
health department, I know you weren't here.
Yeah,
but The health department liaison was here.
okay.
Is this the only nurse in those buildings through the health department, or do we have staff?
We only have nurses through the health department.
There's
We
no
don't hire.
staff nurses.
Is there
Haven't
an
we just
actual,
approved-
What's that?
Didn't we just approve someone that's a nurse, or in our?
I think
their
that
state?
It's through the health.
It's through the health
department.
That's through the health department, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was,
Yeah,
gotcha.
we did
is
get-
not
there a
independent.
nurse in intermediate North Ohio and South Maple? Is there that 3 nurses?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
They split, actually, two nurses. They split one between North Ohio and South Maple. And then there's one at GIS.
And then, how many are up at the high school?
One.
There's one nurse.
Just nurse practitioner and an MS, and Master of Social Work counselor.
Okay. So I think we have a motion on the table we have to
Correct.
vote on, but I assume you all saw the email I sent today. I would prefer we table this until we can get the language cleaned up and then come back to it in October.
Because we do have the motion on the table, the motion is recommended the board approve the health department interagency
Will
RN.
this affect nursing in
Degree,
the schools?
We have to
Don't
vote
know
on
right
that one
now.
first.
Apparently not, they've been there for a year without a contract.
I don't know. I'll have to find out.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I didn't, where have they not been with the contract? Cause
She
the one
said-
contract that they sent says it's a self-renewing contract.
It was that old contract that they didn't renew last year, or they
Yeah.
didn't sign it. Was the challenge. They didn't sign it. So I think our liaison did a really nice job of explaining that she's tasked with cleaning up a lot of these agreements with schools to make sure there's consistency. And that's why we're revisiting it.
And this new agreement says that it will not be a self-renewing, we will have to renew it every year.
Every year. Yep.
But the first sentence in the other one says that it's a self-renewing. So, to me, that says we do have a contract until it says we have 60 days to take it away, but that's,
That's not how I understood it, but,
yeah, I wasn't here, if she had a different explanation, just the way I read the contract, it's self-renewing, so.
So, just a quick question. Let's say there's in the elementary school, one of the elementary schools or GIS, there's a student that's has a substance abuse problem, seeking counsel from this health department nurse. How is that, like, and it's confidential, is that communicated to anybody, like teachers, staff? Like, how is this?
It's situational. I hate to speculate on all the different types of situations that can evolve out of kids' conduct, but we're mandated reporters. So if there's a suspect of, and I would be suspicious of a young kid involved in drugs, that there's probably abuse and would want to report that.
It's confidential, but they're not required to share that information. Are they required to share that information with staff?
For mine,
As a
absolutely.
as a,
Are they mandated reporters too?
a mandated reporter,
Anybody who
yeah.
works in the school
Any
system
any
is mandated
teacher,
reporter.
school staff is correct.
Including our nurses, yeah.
yeah. And that's even including like our lunch people are technically mandated.
Anybody that suspects.
That sees
any-
anything.
Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is, let's say it's somebody that says, well, this doesn't, because it says in here, when you can override the minus confidentiality. And that sounds like that's up to the person that's providing those services to make that decision,
Yeah,
right?
could be.
So can they make those decisions and not even share that with the school?
I would suggest that they probably would not do that. They would be communicating with the building principal and our counselors as well, people on
They're
the team.
obligated under their licensure as well to report.
They are, no
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a lot of wording to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's just confusing, like how it's all, how we are hoping this.
So even though it says they're confidential, they're telling someone. It might not be the parent, but they're telling
Report.
Child Protective Services or somebody of that nature. And then my assumption would be they would go back and tell the parents or do an investigation
Do an
to
investigation.
figure out where and why. Any other questions or comments? All right, so we have the motion on, is to approve the Health Department interagency agreement RN as presented.
So are we tabling, should we have to?
No, we have to vote on
We have
this.
to vote on it.
We have to vote if this goes up
I
or
would
down.
prefer you vote, we vote it down right now.
Yeah, I got you. And then we're gonna table it to get it to correct.
So it's not so
verbiage.
confusing.
Not so confusing.
Rachel,
No.
Katie,
No.
Sarah,
No,
Jeff Corno,
No.
James,
No.
Carrie,
No,
Jeff Weaver.
No. And just before we leave this, so that we're all on the same page. Let me find it. We're talking about just taking out this paragraph that says confidential services under Michigan and federal law are testing, diagnosing, treatment of STIs, HIV, pregnancy testing, prenatal, clients requesting substance abuse services. Is that correct?
Well,
And the
we're
top-
questioning
It has to
the
be there.
confusion
Yeah.
between the two
Right.
paragraphs and their definition of what is confidential services.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll just present that to,
I'll call her tomorrow.
Cause
and,
in the, third paragraph, it says that parents will give consent. But up top, it says, it's questioning whether it's what are the confidential services?
okay. I just wanna make it, so we make this as
clarified.
quickly and easily as we can,
Thank you.
so, all right, you got your task for tomorrow, okay?
Understood.
All right, we'll move on to Gaylord High School Student A, 2024 permanent expulsion. It is recommended the board approve the permanent expulsion of Gaylord High School Student A, 2024 as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the permanent expulsion of GHS student A 2024 as presented.
I'll second it.
Any questions on that? Okay.
Okay, Rachel, Lita, and James, okay? Rachel,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes,
Jeff Corno,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Carrie,
yes,
Jeff Weaver.
Yes. Fifth and sixth grade sex education curriculum. It is recommended the board approve the fifth and sixth grade sex education curriculum as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the 5th and 6th grade sex educational curriculum.
I'll second it.
Questions? Comments? Okay,
Rachel,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes,
Jeff Corno,
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Carrie,
yes.
Jeff Weaver.
yes. All right, public input. Ron A?
Congratulations. Nice
Twice,
work.
I did it twice.
good job.
50-50.
Practicing in front of the mirror last night.
Enough, I'll figure it out.
Baby steps.
I am concerned, I was at the workshop and the lady that was here that presented from the health department did say it's something the parents would have to opt out of. So parents need to know that they need to opt out if they don't want the confidential services. And I think that's important because as a parent, it's still my child. And I know that, Jeff had mentioned, well, probably 50% of the abuse cases are from parents, so it's important to
Family members.
have that confidentiality. But that being said, then that would be 50% of the parents aren't abusing their children, right? So I think that we do need to let the parents know, with clarification, that if you wanna opt out of this, you do have the ability to do that. I know if my children were in school and they were going, my daughter was going for a pregnancy test or getting abortion counseling or STD counseling, I'd wanna know. And I talked to her, about this, she's an RN, and I said, you know, if this was you, Christine, and, you were in high school and you were going for this counseling, you know, would you expect that they would call me and tell me? She goes, well, for sure, Mom, I would want that, like, I would probably even let you know, but maybe some kids wouldn't. But I guess that's between the parent and the child, but the parents do need to know they have the ability to opt out of that contract, that they do not have to submit to those services for the mental health or the nursing services. Because I sure wouldn't want my kindergartner in there getting testing done and I didn't know, you can't even, your child can't get their ears pierced without you. So, I know they changed the laws about parents being able to go back to doctor's offices with their kids and that, there's some goofy stuff that's happened there. They're still our children, I mean, that's our job to protect them. And who's paying the bills and who's doing the follow-up once they get home, when they get some of these services? Your daughter goes for an abortion, nobody tells you, and she comes home, and who's gonna do her aftercare? There's things like that that have happened, I've watched some of these things and, in other states that have done things like this, and it has been a shipwreck for the families. So I want the parents in this town to know that they do have the ability to opt out of that, but they have to opt out. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all the public input we have.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Rachel?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Jeff Corno?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Jeff Weaver?
Yes. Thank you all.